We're going to be looking at the Chapter 9 workbook exercises from the Workbook for a Modern Grammar for Biblical Hebrew. So this is the bibliographical information for the workbook, and then we'll be also referring to the textbook, which is a Modern Grammar for Biblical Hebrew, and this is its bibliographical information as well. We know that a verbal root will typically have three letters called R1, R2, and R3, or sometimes they can be called Roman numeral 1, 2, and 3. The paradigm verb for naming Hebrew verbs is the Qatal. The root actually means to kill, which is interesting. The names for our verb forms come from this root. And in particular, they come from the Qal stem and the third masculine singular. So we have, for the Qatal, notice that the third masculine singular in the Qal is Qatal. So the names of these verbs are simply transliterations of the Qal third masculine singulars. So we have Qatal or Qatal, and that's also known as the perfect. The Vekatal or the Wekatal comes from when we put a wow or a vav in front of the Qatal form. So we have Wukatal. The Yiqtol is the 3ms of this particular form, and it has a prefix. So you have this yod prefix, and then you have the holum as the vowel over the second root letter. So that's Yiqtol, and that's where we get the name Yiqtol for that form. And the last one that we'll look at here is the Yiqtol. It has a wow with a patak and then a doubling of that prefix letter, in this case a yod. Notice the dagesh forte, and so it's Yiqtol. Also notice that the accent has shifted back to the second to last syllable, so it's Yiqtol rather than Yiqtol. And when we write this out, we show that the Y is doubled by writing two Y's in that name, Yiqtol. That dagesh forte is showing us that that yod is doubled. So our names come directly from the actual Hebrew words, and they're simply transliterations of them. Let's do a brief overview of verb forms and verbal stems. You will not be expected to know all of this. This is something that we'll keep coming back to. So this is just a brief overview of some basic concepts. Now the four names that we've seen so far, Qatal, Wekatal, Yiqtol, and Yiqtol, are examples of verb forms. Some grammars call them conjugations. We need to talk about verbal stems. Now there are 7 main stems in Hebrew. These are introduced on page 51 of the textbook briefly. Then the textbook comes back to them in later chapters. The Qal is the base stem. Qal actually means light. It's the base stem. It's the most common of the stems. So most of the verbs in the Hebrew Bible are the Qal stem. Now 4 of the verbal stems add a stem prefix. So for example, the nifal stem, which is a passive or reflexive stem, it adds a prefix of noon. So we have this noon prefix that goes before a root and is part of that nifal stem. Another example is the hifil stem. This is a causative stem, and its prefix is a he. We will be focusing on the Qal stem exclusively for the time being. So 3 of the verbal stems add no stem prefix, and that includes the Qal stem. So the bottom line is that with the Qal stem, we do not have to deal with a stem prefix, and that makes our lives easier. So for now, we will only need to worry about verb prefixes from Yiqtol verbs. That is one of the verb forms for which we have seen a name up to now. So this is a coming attraction, but briefly, the Yiqtol has a prefix, and there are 4 possible prefix letters. And so as an example, if we have the root pakad, so pei, kof, dalet, a Yiqtol form will have a prefix. In this case, it's a yod prefix. So that's one of the 4 possible prefix letters. We'll be coming back to this, so this discussion is to be continued. Before we move on, we need to look at some diagnostics that we use for parsing verbs. So the first diagnostic is that we look for a prefix. As we said, the Yiqtol form has a verbal prefix. Now here we're talking about a prefix added by the verb form, not by the stem. So we're not talking about a stem prefix. We're talking about something added by the verb form. So we pay attention to that. We pay attention to the prefix vowel. If there is a prefix, then we want to see what vowel comes with the prefix. So for example, for that Yiqtol form that we saw, where we had the yod prefix, we saw a hirik was the prefix vowel. So that's just one example. The next thing we pay attention to is R1 doubling, meaning a dagesh forte. We could possibly see a dagesh forte in our first root letter. Another diagnostic is the R1 vowel, so whatever vowel shows up with the root letter. Next we look at R2 doubling, in case there's a dagesh forte in the second root letter. We then look at the R2 vowel, whatever vowel is associated with the R2 letter. And then finally, we look at the suffix, whatever is added on to the end. So those are general characteristics for different kinds of verb forms. This week we're going to be focusing on the Qatal, or the perfect form. So for the Qatal, the diagnostics that we need to concern ourselves with are the last 4. We are not worried about a prefix that's added by the verb form itself, so we do not need to worry about a prefix vowel, and we're not concerned with R1 doubling. So we are concerned with the vowel under the first root letter, whether the second root letter is doubled, the vowel under the second root letter, and the suffix. This is for our Qatal verb form. Now, for our purposes, we're going to be looking at the Qal stem. So, for the Qal stem and the Qatal verb form, what are some things that we know? Okay, so here's our diagnostics, and really there's 3 that are important. The vowel for the first root letter is an A-class vowel, meaning kametz or patach. The vowel for the second root letter, R2, is often A-class, and there's going to be a suffix that we have to pay attention to. So here's a few examples. So for the third masculine singular, we have Qatal. There's no prefix, the Qal has no stem prefix, and the Qatal has no verb prefix. The R1 vowel is kametz, that's A-class. The R2 vowel is A-class, it's a patach, and there is no suffix. Okay, fair enough. Let's look at another example. The Qatal second masculine singular. So this is a Qal stem, Qatal form, second masculine singular. And again, we have nothing coming before it, so no prefix. We have the R1 vowel is comets, the R2 vowel is patach, and then we have the suffix here, this ta suffix. That tells us it's second masculine singular. Let's look at third common plural. So here we have the R1 vowel is comets. The R2 letter reduces in this case. So it's often A class, but occasionally it reduces. When we have certain endings, this vowel will reduce. So we have qatalu. And then we have to deal with the suffix. The suffix here is this shurek. Let's consider one more possible change that can happen. And that is in the 2MP, second masculine plural, and the second feminine plural, we have an interesting ending here. I call it a heavy ending because it's got two consonants. Here we have tem, and over here with the second feminine plural we have ten. And in both cases, the accent is on the last syllable. So if we break this up into syllables, we see that we have one there, one there. So now we have three syllables. This first syllable is now two syllables back from the accent syllable. And so this originally open syllable, we see the vowel reduces. And so in both cases, the vowel reduces to a vocal schwa. So we can talk about our rules here, that our vowels are A class, our R1 vowel and our R2 vowel are A class, except when the vowel reduces. And we saw examples of that. Now, that's okay because the R1 vowel only reduces in the Qal stem. So to summarize that, R1 vowel reduction occurs only in the Qal stem. So let's summarize here. For the Qal stem and the Qatal form, we first check to see that there is no prefix. We check for a suffix, and then we check the R1 vowel and the R2 vowel. And if they're there, if they have not reduced, then they should be A class. Let's begin with the translation practice. This is on page 38 of A Modern Grammar for Biblical Hebrew Workbook, the Chapter 9 workbook exercises. The first one here has a Yiqtol verb in it, and in Chapter 9 we learn how the Qatal, or the perfect verb, is put together. We have not yet had the Yiqtol in terms of how to construct it, so in order to parse this we just have to go to our tables, in this case the table on page 44 of the textbook. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these ones that have Yiqtol verbs because Chapter 9 is where we're introduced to the Qatal, and I want to go through parsing those. Let's just go through this one real quickly. We have Moshe Ya'amod al Haaretz b'Mitzrayim. Moshe Ya'amod al Haaretz b'Mitzrayim. And so we have Moses, that's Moshe. And then the second word here is a Yiqtol verb. Call it a Yiqtol. And that means it's an imperfect. And we can tell that essentially from the prefix. We will learn more about those in Chapter 10. But there is a prefix on here, this yod. So our root here is three letters, ayin, mem, and dalet. And then we have this prefix, this yod in front of it. We'll learn more about those in Chapter 10. But for right now, we just have to look this up because we don't know how to construct them or how to parse them. And the chart on page 44 tells us that this means he will stand. We also learn that because it means he stands, it is a 3ms, third masculine singular. and that matches Moses. Moses is masculine singular. So they match, and so we can put the subject together with the verb. And so we'll go ahead and start filling this out. We get Moses will stand. That's the base, the gloss translation of Ya'amod. Then we have a preposition here, al, which means on, upon, concerning, to. It means quite a few things. And then ha'aretz. This is our word for land, eretz. When we put a definite article on it, the aleph lengthens the vowel under the definite article, and then this is one of the rare cases where the vowel under the first letter actually changes. So we have, instead of ha'eretz, we have ha'aretz. This happens for a handful of words. This one is so common that it's pretty easy to spot. So Moses will stand on the land. It could also mean the earth, but I'm thinking it's probably the land here because of the next word, which is Mitzrayim. So Mitzrayim is Egypt. The B is the preposition, in, by, with. I'm going to say in here, in Egypt. Moses will stand on the land in Egypt. So that's number 1. Let's look at number 3. We have asita. Notice my accent here is above the second to last syllable. Asita et hamizbeach begezer. Asita et hamizbeach begezer. Okay, now to figure this one out, we're going to have to go look at the chart on page 56 of the textbook. So we'll go over there. So this is page 56 of the textbook. The Qal Qatal forms. Our rows cover person, so 3, 2, and 1, gender, masculine and feminine, and then common, and then number, singular or plural. So we have third masculine singular, third feminine singular, so he or she. Second masculine singular would be you masculine. Second feminine singular would be you feminine. First common singular is I, and that covers both male and female, masculine and feminine. That's common. Third common plural is they, and that is the same for either they feminine or they masculine. Second masculine plural would be you masculine. Second feminine plural would be you feminine. And then first common plural would be we, and that's the same for masculine or feminine. The suffomatives are the endings. The Qatal, or the perfect form, is also called the suffix form because it's formed using suffixes. There's no prefixes. Notice that here's our root here. None of these has anything added to the beginning. When we look at Yiqtol verbs, we'll see prefixes added. So third masculine singular has no ending. Third feminine singular has a kamatse. And you can go down through and see all the rest of the endings here in this chart. So when we parse a verb, we're looking for these endings. These are going to be critical in determining what we're looking at. So let's go back over to our sentences here. We're going to pick up with number 3. And as we saw before, we have asita. So asita, notice that we have this ending, this ta ending, this ta with a commas underneath it. So that's a ta. But we have a yod in the middle of this. Well, where have we seen that? Well, if we go back to our chart, we have three different types of verbs. Actually, this column and this column are both strong verbs. So this is strong verbs. This verb here is a strong verb as well, meaning it has no gutturals or other funny letters. At the beginning, notice that there's a dogish laney in this calf. But other than that, it behaves the same as these strong verbs over here. So we won't spend a lot of time messing with the begad kafat column. It's not super significant. The main thing is we're going to look at strong verbs. We're going to look at three hey verbs. Now we saw the ta, and there it is. There's the ta ending. We also saw the yod, and there's that yod. So this tells us that we're looking at second masculine singular, and it's a three hey verb. What this means is that the third letter of the root is hey. Notice that the root for this, it's not listed here, but the root here is bana. The third masculine singular form shows us the letters of the root here. So it's beit, nun, hey. But in some of the forms, we see that the hey drops off and it's replaced by a yod. And so the second masculine singular is one of those examples, banita. Let's take a look at our verb one more time. So we have asita. Notice that our R1 vowel is comet, so it is A class. Our R2 vowel has shifted because we lost that hey. So that hey got converted to a yod. This vowel shifted over to a heroic yod. So that's why I said before that the R2 vowel is often A class. But sometimes with weak verbs, for example with a three hey verb, the vowel can be changed. In any case, we do see the R1 vowel is A class, and we do see this characteristic ending, which is second masculine singular. So we'll come back over to our exercise here. This is a second masculine singular form, and the root is going to be asa. That's ayin, sin, and hey. So second masculine singular, you did or made. Asa is the root for to make or to do. So we'll begin this. You, masculine, and it'd be past tense. Made, that's the default translation of the perfect. And then we have et. Now notice et here. This is the direct object marker, and that is covered in chapter 8 on page 47. Okay, so page 47, top of page 48. The et is the direct object marker, and it essentially tells us that what comes after it is the direct object of the verb. So we have ha mizbeach. So we have the definite article, ha. Mizbeach is altar. So we know that the direct object of the verb made is the altar. And then finally we have begezer, and that would be in gezer. Okay, you made the altar in gezer. We had a Qatal form here, also known as a perfect. The stem was a Qal. Everything that we've done so far is a Qal. That is the most common of all the stems in Hebrew. The form is Qatal, so it's a Qal Qatal, or perfect. And then it was 2ms, and as we said, the root was asa. So that's how we parse that verb. Let's come down and look at number 5 here. We have katavnu et hamitzvot la'am. Note again we have an accent on the second to last syllable, so it's katavnu et hamitzvot la'am. So we have a nice standard qatal verb here with that new ending. That's one diagnostic of a qatal of the first common plural. Let's go over and look at our chart. So we're looking for, actually it's using the same root as our table here, so katav, and here is katavnu. That's way down there at the bottom, and that's our first common plural, our we. Essentially this is the same as a strong verb. So katalnu, katavnu, the ending is the same, so it's the new ending. But we happen to see our form right here, right in front of us, so we might as well take advantage of it. All right, so we come back over. So we have, go ahead and parse it first. We have a Qal stem. Everything we will be looking at will be a Qal stem. Then it is a Qatal. That's the table we were looking at, or perfect. First common plural. And the root is katav. So I'll go ahead and write that in. That's kaf, tau, and bait, katav. For a root, I don't have to put in a dagesh leni. I can, but typically for a root, we just skip all the pointing altogether. We just put the letters in. So there's katav. That's our root. Let's go ahead and start typing in what it means here. So katavnu would mean we wrote. Then we have the direct object marker et. So what follows it is the direct object, hamitzvot. This is an interesting word, and it might be a little bit confusing. A mitzvah is a commandment. It's a feminine noun, so mitzvot, that is our plural ending. So we wrote, and it's got a definite article on it, the hey with the patak and the doubling of the first letter, the mem. See the dagesh forte in the first letter there. So we wrote the commandments, and then finally la'am. Am is people, la would be our preposition, and then the fact that we have the comets here tells us that we had a definite article and it got replaced by the lamed. So this was ha'am, the lamed turned it into la'am. The lamed dropped in instead of the hey. So we have definite article. We wrote the commandments to the people. To the people. Let me do a quick sidebar on mitzvot to show how that got formed. So here we have our word in its singular form. We have mitzvah. Notice what we have here is a consonantal vav with a comets. So that is mitzvah. Some would pronounce that mitzvah. Some people pronounce it with a V sound, some with a W. So mitzvah or mitzvah, I say mitzvah. Note we have vav as a consonant followed by the vowel, comets. And then the hey is, really it's comets hey, is the final vowel. The plural we see down here is mitzvot. Again, we have a consonant, that's that vav or that wow. And then we have the vowel. In this case, it is a holum. So it's consonant vav with a holum vowel. This is not the same as a holum vav. That's a vowel letter. That's something different. That's a vowel in and of itself. This is consonant and vowel. So how do we get there? We have our base word. In order to turn it into a plural, normally we remove the commas hey and we add ot. So holem vav and tav. And so we would have mitzvot. Notice that this looks different. So what's happened here is that we drop out the vowel letter. We drop out the vowel letter and we convert it to a simple holem. So here we have the holem. So this vowel letter has been converted to a holem. So we have mitzvot. Again, it's consonant vowel. Here we have consonant vowel. This is a vowel letter. So even though this looks the same as this, they're not the same. Up here, we have a vowel letter, and it's coming after the consonant vav. So we have vote. Down here, we have the consonant vav, and its vowel is a simple holem, and that's mitzvot. That can be a little bit confusing. And in this case, the plural is written what we call defectively. I suppose the Hebrews just didn't like the look of this. It looks kind of messy. So they compacted it a little bit and they made it mitzvot. Note that it sounds exactly the same. You've got mitzvot, mitzvot. All right, so coming back over here, we have hamitzvot. That's what we see in this particular sentence. Katavnu, we wrote at hamitzvot, the commandments, la'am, to the people. All right, let's look at the next one here. We have Ra'u HaKohanim Dam al HaMizbeach. Ra'u HaKohanim Dam al HaMizbeach. So we have Ra'u. This is a little bit tricky because the hey is actually dropped off of this. We look at our chart over here on page 56, and this is again going to be a 3-hey verb. And here we go. It looks like it follows this pattern here. We have the final hey dropped off, and it's got this shurik at the end. So it's third common plural, and then we need to figure out the root. And so the root here is going to be, resh aleph hey, ra'ah, to see. Back in the time of 1 Samuel, a roah, those same consonants, was a seer. So here's ra'ah, to see. And then we have a third common plural. So we're going to write all that down. Qal is our stem, will always be our stem. And it's a qatal. And it is third common plural. And as I said, the root is ra'ah. Now we have ha-kohanim. So this is the priests. So kohen is priest, and kohanim, this is one of those cases where the first vowel doesn't reduce, so the second one does. So kohen becomes kohanim. The im ending tells us it's plural, and that is priests. So we will have masculine plural, the priests, and it matches the plural verb. Remember, that's a plural verb also, and it's common, so it will be either masculine or feminine will match it. So the priests saw, Ra'u, and then what did they see? Dam is blood, al, upon or on, can also mean concerning, but in this case I'm thinking they saw blood on something. Al hamizbeach. So they saw blood on or upon the altar. So here's a case where we have a plural subject matching a plural verb. And because it's common, masculine or feminine will both match it. So the priests saw blood on the altar. Let's do another one here. We'll do number 7. Let me read it. Hagiborim halaku el hamidbar lama'an asher yirash hasar et hanegev. Okay. Hagiborim halaku el hamidbar lama'an asher yirash hasar et hanegev. Interesting. Okay. So this is a little bit longer. It actually has 2 verbs. The first verb is going to be here, halaku, and we have a noun coming before that. So we have ha-giborim. So a gibor is a warrior, a mighty man. So let's go ahead and start typing that in, and then we'll look at the verb second. So there is a definite article in front of ha-giborim. You see the definite article, the hey with the patak, and then the doubled first letter. That gimel is doubled. Ha-giborim. The second letter is also doubled. That's part of the word itself. The word itself has a double letter in it. That's just, some words have dagesh fortes in them. That's just the way it goes. So we have the warriors, and so then we have here halaku. We need to go look that up. So we'll look that up in our table. We can consider this, for our purposes, to be a strong verb for the time being. So we're going to come down here, and here's another third common plural, only in this case nothing drops off of it. We have all the letters in the root show up, which happens in a strong verb. Our paradigm verb is qatal, and that would be qatalu. And over here, that shows up as halaku. So that is a Qal Qatal third common plural. I'll put the parsing over here this time. So the warriors, and notice that we have warriors as plural, and this is plural, so they match. Common will match either masculine or feminine, and it's plural, so warriors, which is masculine, matches. The warriors went, so halak means to go, and we'll do it past tense. Qatal base translation would be went. And then we have el hamidbar. So el is the preposition for to, type that in. And then hamidbar, this is definite article, and then midbar is wilderness. So the warriors went to the wilderness. Now we have lama'an asher, and that word pair there will mean in order that, or in order to, or perhaps for the sake of. So in order that now we have yirash. That is a Yiqtol verb, not a qatal. So we'll just have to look that up on page 43. That turns out to mean he will possess, possibly inherit. And that means that we have a third masculine singular here. That's what that he is telling us. So then we're looking for the next word is hasar, which would be the prince or the leader. And so I think we're going to then replace our he with the leader will possess et, that's our direct object marker, ha-negev. The Negev can refer to an area in the south of Israel called the Negev. Sometimes it refers to the south just itself. So it could be will possess the southland, but we'll just leave it as the Negev. So here we have the warriors went to the wilderness in order that the leader, and I think maybe this is one of those cases where we could turn this into more of a modal sense so that the leader may possess or might possess the Negev. That phrase in order that sometimes tells us that our verb might have this may sense, that the leader might or may possess the Negev. Let's do one more here. Number 9, we have habanitem et habatim lanashim. Habanitem et habatim lanashim. This is tricky because at the beginning here we have a hey with a patak, and that looks a lot like a definite article. Notice that the second letter here does not have a dagesh forte, and it's a bait, so it can take a dagesh forte. In addition, we see that there is a shawah, vocal shawah, underneath the bait. And so what we have here is an interrogative hey. So what's happening here is normally the interrogative hey has a hataf patak, one of these vocal shawahs, but when that bumps up against the next letter, in this case a bait with a vocal shawah, two vocal shawahs can't go together, and so what happens is that this first letter converts to a full vowel and becomes ha. So that's what happened here, but there is no dagesh forte, and that's how we know that this is not a definite article. So we have a question. So now we need to look at the verb itself, which we look at in the absence of the question. So we forget about the interrogative hey and just look at the rest of this. Banitem, banitem. That tem is making me think that we're looking at a Qatal verb here. Let's go look at our chart. And actually we're looking at bana, interestingly, so it's actually showing up right in our chart the way we see it in our sentence. Here we have banitem, banitem. So that is our second masculine plural, Qal Qatal. Let's do a little sidebar here. We had mentioned that for the Qal Qatal, in the second masculine plural and second feminine plural, the vowel under the R1 letter reduces because it is 2 syllables back from the accent. So now we come down and look at the word that we're looking at now, banitem. This is a 2MP form, and so we do get the R1 vowel reduction to vocal shawah. But notice also, because it is a 3 hey verb, we also drop out the hey and we get this hirik yod in the middle. So both R1 and R2 lose that characteristic A-class vowel. We still have our ending, our second masculine plural ending, and it's only the Qal stem where we see reduction of the first vowel. So we know that we have a Qal, second masculine plural, The only tricky part now is to realize that this is a three-hay, and so we can figure out that the root is bana. Now let's go back over. We will write that out for ourselves. So we have Qal Qatal, second masculine plural. Our root, as we saw, was bana. I'll go ahead and write that in. We were at the edge here. That's bana, to build. And then we have, since it's second masculine plural, that will be you, masculine plural. And so we'll start it out as a question. It's past tense. Did you build? Without the interrogative, it would be you, masculine plural, built. But we'll go ahead and start it with, as a question. Did you build? And again, that's masculine plural. Did you build at, there is direct object marker coming right after the verb. That's how we know it's a direct object marker. The word at can also be a preposition that means with, but when it comes right after a verb like this, it is often a direct object marker. And then habatim, and batim is the plural for house, bayit, and we have a definite article here. So this is a normal one because notice we have the he patak plus the dagesh forte in the bait. So we have, did you build the houses? And then finally we have la nashim. So nashim is women, and we have the lamed pronoun, and notice we also have the patach and the dagesh forte in the first letter, which indicates that we did have an article. We had hanashim, and we wanted to put a lamed in there, so the lamed comes along, and we drop out the shawa, we drop out the hay, and the lamed goes into the place where the hay was before. So we have the women. Did you build houses? And then the lamed would be 2 or 4. I think this case it'll be 4. Did you build houses for the women? Question mark. So there's some examples of qatal verbs in sentences.